got a chance to see the new Angel Studios World War II film, Truth and Treason. Let's talk about it right now. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thank you so much for spending time with me as we rant about movies, comic books, and television shows, as well as the occasional board game. I am your host, Frank Zenka, an award-winning screenwriter, novelist, and comic book writer, as well as a filmmaker. And yeah, we're going to talk about this new Angel Studios film. It's a biopic based in a World War II setting called Truth and Treason. So, if anybody knows anything about me, if you've been watching this series for a period of time, you'll know too that I wrote a World War II book, also a biopic, but not anybody famous or anything to that effect. And that was called Escape from Berlin, the Diane Jacobs story. Unfortunately, Diane did pass away several years ago. But the book is still lives on in not replacement, but at least to honor her story. And I just had a producer just picked it up. I didn't ask her to read it or anything else. She picked it up from Amazon, and she said it was great. So good stuff. And I'm heavily invested in this time period. So anything that comes out that has to do with World War II, I'll go see, no matter what. And no matter what the budget is. And I'm because obviously I've looked into turning, in fact, that producer I just talked to said, why haven't you turned this book into a movie already? And, well, raising money, of course, is the problem like anything else. I can say that I was heavily impressed when I found out what the budget of this film was. And because I can't even imagine making the film for what they made it for. And they made it for like $2.7 million or something like that, under $3 million. That is completely shocking to me. And I waited all the way to the end to find out where they shot it, but just by the fact of the names that were on the screen, I knew that I thought it was Norway, based on the names. You know, everything had like an accent and stuff like that over it. But it wasn't. It was Lithuania. Why would I even think of somebody being shot? That has not been a country that's been on the list. Like even my producing partner, who is an Emmy Award winner, I think I brought this up on the last video, he has to go, nothing's happening here in the States. All production, thanks to the strikes, all production has left the country. All of it. There is so little being shot here. I just talked to a friend of mine that I worked with on my last film here. She's back in LA shooting a film, and it's $200,000. That's it. Everything here is so tiny. It's crazy. Even that, the only reason that they're probably shooting in LA is because they have a couple of actors that, you know, don't want to leave, or they have the main producer doesn't want to leave his family. That's the only reason to shoot in LA at this point. But to do a film like this that is a period piece for that kind of budget, hats off. Of course, they didn't do any trains or anything like that, but they did have cars from the period. They, of course, had clothing from the period. They had, you know, buttons made up, you know, pins that had, you know, the Nazi Third Reich symbol on it and all that. So they had some production design, you know, everything. And I got to say that the production designer did an amazing job, because I did feel transported to that time period. Everything looked unique to that period of time. So I think that I don't think they flew any production designers in, and I think most of these actors are like British actors or definitely European actors to some degree, but none of them really have any notable credits. So that's one of the detriments to a budget that tiny, is that you don't have any names to get people to the theater, right? So the biggest name was Rupert Evans. That's the biggest name they've got, and he was from Charmed as like their handler, the angel, and then they had and he was also from Man of High Castle. But that's it. The main guy has very, very few credits behind him. He was from Last Kingdom. That was his first role, playing Alphawit. That's it. I mean, and he is excellent. All the acting in here is excellent. I have no complaints about any of the acting, and their DP did an amazing job of lighting for the period. And that's really important for the transportation of your mind back there, is that nothing can be overlit, because of course he wanted to use the natural lighting of the interiors and the exteriors, especially at night. And you know, they didn't have the amount of lighting back in the 40s that we had, that we have now. And it takes place in between 1941 and 1942. And the reason that's important, so if anyone is a connoisseur of U.S. and European history, you'll know that we didn't enter the war until after Pearl Harbor, the attack on Pearl Harbor, which was when? It was December 7th, 1941. And we declared, and remember that the declaration of war has to go through Congress, right? And that happened literally within 24 hours. Well, we declared war on Japan on December 8th. By December 11th, we had declared, it took a little bit longer, it took them a week to say, yeah, we're declaring war on Hitler as well. So, of course, the war ended for several years. After that, I believe it was ended in 1944, 1945. So this takes place before we enter the war, and then basically to right after we declared war on Germany. You know, like the first quarter of 1942 is when I think this thing ends. It really, nothing had gotten to the point of the attack on Germany at that point. But the British were continually bombing Germany as well. And we see that in here. So Germany was bombing England. It was called the Luftwaffe. And then the Blitz. The Blitz was that, and then they were bombing Germany as well. So we get to see some of that as well. That's also in my book, as well as the bombing of Germany. So it was constantly a back and forth. So, again, I am recommending, before we even jump into the storyline and everything like that, and the filmmakers, I am recommending this film purely on the acting, the pacing, and the subject matter. So I suggest seeing it, and it is a purely independent film. Anybody that can do a period piece for less than $3 million deserves every piece of my respect. I mean, the film that we did with Crispin Glover was a little over $2 million, and it didn't have the quality of this. So, but anyway, before we go on, remember to give me a like, give me a subscribe if you can. Ring that bell, ding ding. Share this video out there so everybody knows about this film. I really want this film to do well, and we'll get into what it's made at this point as well for the first weekend. Also, remember too that I'm a writer myself. You can check out my 4-novel sci-fi quadrilogy called Destiny Aurora. So if you like space battle stuff like Star Wars, Star Trek, Guardians of the Galaxy, you're going to love Destiny Aurora. It was made into a board game, an RPG, a graphic novel. It's also on Audible with multiple voices. So if you just don't like one person reading it, you're going to love that. Plus it's got some comedic stuff that I think gets pulled off by the actors. As well as my fantasy novel, Tales of Ravenor, the Iron Witch. So if you're a fan of Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, Lord of the Rings. You're going to love this. It's got a magic system in it. We have dragons, we got griffins, we got a whole bunch of stuff. Fantasy setting, we got monsters, all that stuff. So you're going to love that one as well. And then my new horror comic called Fairy Tales of Terror. So we have Psycho Cinderella killing people. We got a killer Captain Hook. They're being chased around New York City by Tiger Lily from Neverland. So you're going to love that one too. The artwork is phenomenal. We're doing late pledge right now. I will be retiring certain covers, so definitely jump into that now. Go to fairytalesofterror.com and you'll get into that. Plus, if you're interested in learning about filmmaking, especially on the low budget side, I'm going to do a master class November 1st and 2nd through Zoom online. I will teach you everything you need to know over a course of 2 days. And if you're, I know it's during Halloween, but you'll be able to go to parties at night. It's only a couple hours during the day. Anyway, definitely check that out. We have it's called Movie Magic, and the link in the description below has the Eventbrite. It's not expensive. So, all right, jumping back into the movie. So this movie was written, produced, and directed by a man named Matthew Whitaker. And he has his whole family's involved. You see the Whitaker name all over the credits. And this thing somehow, I was looking it up, I couldn't find it though, because when I was watching the credits, it says special thanks to, and it just kept going and going and going. It was literally 300 or 400 people that had, I assume, crowdfunded this thing. And I looked it up and they said, yes, it was crowdfunded. It was also, they also have a loan of $170,000 that I found as well. Not sure what that was for. That was probably for pre-production is what I would think it was for. Either that or it was for the any kind of rebate. I don't know what Lithuania has as far as rebates are concerned. But this thing just went on. I can't find where it crowdfunded. So if it was crowdfunded, they really don't have to pay the money back unless they bought stock. And if they did, it's still crowdfunding. If those people never see their money back again, they don't care. It was like a couple $100 here, a couple $100 there. Maybe somebody gave a few thousand, but nothing anybody's going to break the bank on. But luckily, so far, it's also already made $2.7 million, which means it might make $5 to $6, hopefully even $7 million by the time it's done, and therefore it'll be profitable. Although I think this will find a really nice home on streaming as well. So the main actor, again, had done really nothing besides that TV show, Last Kingdom. And Rupert Evans, again, doing, Charmed is his claim to fame. So again, there's nobody in here that's going to draw an audience. Just nobody. Then again, neither does Tron. Jared Leto is about the same, in the same group as Rupert Evans. Unfortunately, nobody goes to see a movie because he's in it. That movie's losing its ass. Jeez. But there's also a little bit, I see that the marketing is leaning in towards a romance side. The romance side, if you're going to see it for that, you're going to be disappointed because the romance side is 2-3 scenes. That's it. What you see in the trailer is pretty much the romance you see. But anyway, it's about this guy named Helmuth Hubner, and what he does, and this is kind of a turn on the dime. So at the beginning of the film, he is pledging to the Third Reich. He's basically pledging his allegiance to it. His dad is like a military guy. You see him in the military uniform, and he gets a job in a steno group or whatever else of secretaries, doing filing and stuff to that effect. But he writes. He's basically, his claim to fame is that he's a writer, right? He knows how to write and speak. And he is only a teenager. He's only 16 at the time. And he then changes on a dime when his half-Jewish friend, he's got 4 friends that he's very, very close with. And one of his friends is half-Jewish. And they all go to the same church, like a Mormon church. But because he's half Jewish, as far as the Nazis were concerned, that's all Jewish, you know. And they called Jews like subhuman and stuff like that. That's why when everybody talks about the word Nazi is thrown out so well and easily now, it makes me sick, because what you're calling a Nazi is not how it was in the 40s and late 30s. I mean, they put people in gas chambers for being a Jew. I don't see anybody dying going in front of being beheaded or going up against a firing squad or anything to that effect. I just think that name is used way too easily right now, especially when you talk about what really happened. I wish we had a time machine where people who are using that word could go back in time and see what that was really like, because that's not what we have now. But there's the 4 guys, so one is then taken. And when he gets taken, Helmut now immediately shifts. I thought that was too quick a turn. I think there should have been a little bit more, like he saw some other people getting taken and realized that he had to now risk his life. He doesn't only risk his own life, he risks his friend's life because he asked them to help. And he finds these red pieces of paper and uses them as pamphlets, what he puts out all over the place through Berlin. And, of course, slowly they get found out. And that's basically the storyline. And it takes them, months before they finally piece together that it's a teenager that's doing all this. As even when they catch him, they don't believe it. They don't believe that he's the mastermind behind the whole thing. And Rupert Everett is basically playing the Gestapo. He's the lead of the Gestapo in this particular investigation. So that's basically the storyline, and it's very compelling. The character is extremely likable, and even Rupert Everett's character, I wouldn't say he's likable, and you really don't identify with him, but we get to see behind the curtain, we get to see his family and stuff like that. So they don't really paint him as a monster, which is, the stuff he does is monstrous for sure. But just to show you that they do show both sides of the coin. Of course, there is no redemption for some of these people, but that's the basic storyline. And Matthew Whitaker, I guess he did a 3-part or a multi-part series that is a documentary of the same thing. It's called Truth and Conviction or something to that effect. So obviously he was very, very in-depth with this story before he got the money to do the narrative, right? Because I think that's several years old. So somebody saw that and said, hey, let's make a movie based on your doc series, which is great. I mean, any filmmaker was like, okay. Especially when you're passionate about the material. So anyway, I am. If you look at Rotten Tomatoes, I don't think anybody's even looking at Rotten Tomatoes anymore. Cine something people are going to nowadays because Rotten Tomatoes has kind of screwed themselves. Making concessions for the big studios. But anyway, even if you look at Rotten Tomatoes, this is very well liked. I think it's in the 80s and 90s, and rightfully so. And again, I hope that more people go to see this. In fact, the girl who plays the love interest, this is her first role. They probably got her from Lithuania, or she had to be a local or something like that, which is why she hasn't had any, main roles and things to that effect. Anyway, definitely tell people about this. Tell people to go see it yourself, especially if you like this kind of stuff. And remember to give me a like, give me a thumbs up if you can. If you can't subscribe, please do. Ring that bell, ding, ding. Check out Fairy Tales of Terror. Go to fairytalesofterror.com. There's also a link in the description below, and jump in on that. And also, if you'd like to join me for the master class, I think if you're interested in film at all, you'll get a lot out of this. And again, it's not very expensive. It's on Eventbrite, a link in the description below. Feel free to comment if you want additional information as well. All right, thanks a lot, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching.